do you actually want to solve dyslexia? And if so, do you want to do it in 5 years? Do you want to do it in 10? Because if you want to do it in 5 years, like, you better move faster. And like, this is the best way to do it.
There's so many things I've screwed up as a parent, but one of the things I did well is get all my kids addicted to audiobooks.
Oh my God, so helpful for staying focused. Diamonds are made from the biggest amount of pressure. They're gems, and they can withstand just a lot of pressure. They know how to ask for help. They know how to like recruit other people to their mission. They know how to be vulnerable, and they have the humility to know that they're not the smartest person in the room every single time. So they end up being exceptional leaders. Learn everything you can from books.
It's infinitely easier to get someone interested in another human instead of a logo. At least this is the gospel according to Jess. Feel free to disagree with me.
But like, if you understand something about the world that other people don't understand, and there's intrinsic value to that thing that you understand, and you are willing to like die for this cause, like you will put everything on this cause, like everything, you'll bet everything on it. And that was me with text to speech. That's amazing. Just don't bet money, bet your time and effort. We talked a little about strategy. We talked about content. We talked about hiring. We talked a little bit about marketing. A lot of people talk about EQ, emotional intelligence, or IQ, intelligence quotient. But the thing that I have that's off the chart is AQ, adversity quotient. I will not give up no matter what on things. And I'm like, okay, well, what are the things that I want next? Like, I'm going to turn 30 in a year. What now? What do I want for my family? What do I want for my home? What do I want for my partnership? What do I want for my goals around fitness?
Welcome to Innovation and Leadership. I'm Jess Larsen. Really excited for this episode. I get to have founder and CEO of Speechify, Cliff Weitzman. Cliff, thanks for doing this.
Absolutely, Jess. Thanks for having me.
So I've been like an enormous fan of your product. And so I was really excited when you were speaking at the Vid Summit event here a few weeks ago, and was able to hunt you down in the as you're walking past me at lunch. Hey, Cliff, I'm your biggest fan. And we that went from me telling you what a huge fan I am into like a awesome hour and 45-minute discussion there. So let's start with this. Why don't you give the elevator pitch on what Speechify is, how many million people are using it so far, and then I've got endless questions.
Perfect. Actually, let me suggest a different intro because this is a special occasion. You probably explain Speechify better than almost anyone I've ever met, both in terms of how you use it, how your kids use it, and where you use it. I'll tell the audience that Speechify has 25 million users, and I've been working on it for 7 years. But I'm going to pause. Jess, I want to hand it back to you. Just tell me what you told me when we originally met, and then I'll add the flavor on top.
Oh, okay. I'm sure I don't remember what I actually said, but here's the deal. Speechify is like an answer to my prayers. I love audio so much. I read maybe a book a year. Probably not. I probably read less than a book a year, but I listen to 2 to 4 books a week, and I'm ticked that Audible only goes to 3.5 speed. And it has done so much for my business, for my life, for so many things to have access to consume this content so much. And I just, for whatever reason, really, really do well with consuming audio. And so I've spent years doing the Apple hack of having robot voice read the internet to me. The worst is Kindle, because there's so many books that aren't on audio. I'm constantly having to go buy the Kindle and do crappy speech to robot voice text to speech, but then I can't use anything else on my phone. And if I touch the screen, it goes off, and it's a terrible experience. And my kids have at least 3 of my kids have eye convergence deficiency, which is very similar effects to dyslexia or stuff, where it's they're looking right here on the page, but their eyes aren't meeting at the same place. And so for them, it's the words go up and down. And so my son, my 17-year-old, he he's so bad at spelling and writing, and you'd think he's still in elementary school when you see his handwriting stuff, right? But he was getting assessed for special ed in elementary school because he couldn't keep up, and he just wasn't on so many things. And I want to say it was either 3rd or the 4th grade, they had him tested for reading comprehension and audio comprehension, and his reading is terrible. And he tested at the 9th grade level for his audio comprehension. And like, he's got so much ability to retain things that like, we got these reports from his third grade teacher that kids would bring up something in class, I don't know, penguins or something, and Bridge would raise his hand at the back of the class and say, actually, did you know? And it's like this random obscure thing, right? And the teacher's like, I don't know about that, Bridge. And she'd go look it up and it'd be right. And like, she told us at the parent-teacher interview, like 3/4 of the way through the year, that this had happened early in the year, that it got to the point where whenever he said something in class, the teacher would just like, I guess if Bridge said it, it's true. And so that came up this week. We were on a family trip, took the kids to California, surfing, quick cruise to Mexico. And on the way back and forth, my wife talked about how many arguments she had with like 9-year-old Bridge and 10-year-old Bridge about facts that just like, it just sounded fantastical. Like it couldn't be the case. And then she'd go look up and then she'd have to apologize. I guess you were right, son, right? This is a kid that's like, they want to hold him back in school. They want to like the special ed classes, all this stuff, right? And he's just like absurdly intelligent, super high retention factor, but just not built like our modern school system is completely unbuilt for him. And, I have done, there's so many things I've screwed up as a parent, but one of the things I did well is get all my kids addicted to audiobooks. And so now, like, my kids, like, as soon as they got Speechify, they're like, Dad, can I have your Speechify account for school? Because to like start having this stuff read to them, and it's like, it's a game changer thing. And I love it. And especially your voices, because you've got Snoop Dogg, you've got Gwyneth Paltrow, you've got these like great voices to listen to, but I can speed it up to 4.5 times. And whether it's the Wall Street Journal, whether it's anything, like, it just kills me to no end. Wall Street Journal, you couldn't do the text to speech from your Mac because they had it locked because they're trying to keep their material copyrighted and people aren't copy paste. Well, it just means that I'd kind of read, but then I'd skip, and I wouldn't get through them. Well, they finally add audio to the Wall Street Journal, and on the app, you can only listen to it at 1x. And on the desktop, it went to a max of 2x. It's like, oh, people, you're killing me. What are we doing so slow? I don't even know if I want to read this yet. Like, we got to speed this up so I can see if this thing's any good. And so, like, the fact that I can read the Wall Street Journal, the locked Wall Street Journal material on Speechify at 4.5 speed, and then decide if it's any good, like, I might go back and listen to it a second at a time. But if you're going through it that fast, it doesn't hurt to go through it a second time. Like, I listened to my audiobooks once just to see if they're any good. And then I fell away in my brain of like, do I re-listen to it immediately, or do I just pull it out when I have that problem? So like, I just want to get through this, people. And all the other options are like terrible Band-Aids, and yours is like a great experience.
So happy to hear that.
What would you add? What did I miss?
This is exactly what
now you can do. Now you can do voiceover in other languages and use Speechify to go the other direction to make your YouTube videos. You can translate it into other languages. Like, there's all these other things for it. And if you corner the CEO of this like mega tech company for 2 hours, he will end up telling you that the Mac app is better than the Chrome extension. However, I went all over your YouTube channel, and I still have not got like great instructions of how to maximize using the Mac app.
So I need to update the instruction material. This is true. So Jess, first of all, thank you for using Speechify so extensively, and thank you for your kids for using it as well. This is exactly the type of feedback I basically hear from everybody who uses their product, which is, especially if you have ADHD, maybe your teacher thinks you're slow, maybe your parents think you're lazy. You're going to say,
can I pause you? I thought I hated reading as a kid. And then when I was like in like the 8th grade, my dad had this like kind of like Lord of the Ring types book by Terry Brooks called not Sword of Shannara, Talisman of Shannara or something. And I was an artist and I was an art kid, and the art was so good. I was like, I wonder if that's a good story because the cover is so good. And I finally read like the first book I actually liked. It took me to like the 8th grade, right? And then I became a voracious reader. But I'm thinking about some of your other interviews, and like, by the way, I really like your YouTube channel. I'd never seen it until after we met, but where you talk about like listening to music over here and then doing this over here so it can keep your ADD break. Like, I read so many novels through junior high and high school with Metallica or Nirvana or Hole or on my tape deck, okay, while I'm just powering through these books just voraciously. And that, like, you know, I even write with Metallica on, or you know, rap or something. I'll whiteboard, I'll write, and then sometimes I turn it off. But I remember you bringing that up, and it's like this ADD thing of like how do you keep from having like the, oh, squirrel, oh, shiny penny, right? And anyways, the audio just changed everything. Okay, sorry, back to you.
Audio ducking feature in Speechify. So if you go, if you have a document open in Speechify, you go to the top right to the three dots. It'll let you pull in from Spotify at 30% volume music while you're listening to Speechify. And this was my biggest hack in college. So before Speechify was big, I had the Mac app. I would use it to do all my philosophy reading, and I used to do a lot of philosophy. And I would like power through like Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle or Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche, and I would just like listen to EDM music or like superhero music from movies at like 30% volume, or like Vivaldi Third Concerto, like stuff that didn't have lyrics. Oh my God, so helpful for staying focused. But at the same point of like squirrel, if you have ADHD, sometimes your teachers think you're slow or your parents think you're lazy, but you're not. You're awesome. You just need to find the right way for you to learn. And the key is your brain moves really fast. And like if you have ADHD, you're wired to be able to listen fast. And the reading, like the max you're realistically going to get is like 200 words per minute. But the second that you listen at 400 words per minute and it's equal to the speed at which your brain is working, that helps you. And then you can like stay forever and like intake information. It becomes amazing. And some people in the audience might hear you say, you know, that you read 3 to 4 books a week. And they go, there's no way. This is like exaggeration. I can attest, it's true. I listen to 2 books a week. I've been doing it for like 17 years. And the trick is you can't do it with your eyes, but you can do it with your ears, because you're reading like 2 to 3 to 4 times faster. You can do it when you're in the car, when you're working out, when you're cooking, when you're in the bathroom, like every night. I just like the last 2 hours of my day is just walking around the house, like doing whatever I need to do and like reading. And like I'll do push-ups, I'll do, you know, whatever I need to do, and I'll read, but like with audio. And so, and by the way, you pointed out a great feature that most people don't know about is you can import your Kindle books into Speechify in the settings. And then that's just like an unbelievable experience. Same thing for, we now have the Speechify audiobooks app. So if you search separate app, Speechify books, you can download it. Audible has 450,000 titles. We have 300,000 titles, including like Brandon Sanderson and a bunch of people that now self-publish their books on Speechify. And it lets you listen and read at the same time. You can take notes. It's faster, better design, higher quality audio. And then now we have the ability to turn a bunch of normal ebooks into audiobooks already in that app. So you can just straight up buy the ebook there and you'll get the audiobook experience, which is really great. But yeah, so to answer your original question and add on top of it, I'm super dyslexic. I moved to the States when I was 13 from Israel. And I built about 36 different products when I was in college, everything from 3D printed skateboard rigs to iPhone apps and websites and payment systems. And around 2015, I started reading a bunch of academic papers about the narrow applications of deep learning. And I realized that I would be able to make text-to-speech like 10x better if I use the right technologies. And what I decided to do is I had built a tool for myself that was already very popular on my YouTube channel to help me read stuff. And in the beginning, it was a Mac app. Then it became an iPhone app. Then we made a Chrome extension so you could scan physical books. It'll read. You can open a PDF. It'll read. You can go to your Gmail, click play. It'll read. Same thing for Google Docs or PDFs or ChatGPT. It doesn't matter what. And it coaches you to listen fast. So it has an automatic speed ramping algorithm that will take you from like listening at like 250 words per minute to 300 to 400 to 500 to 600. I'm now number, I don't know, 10,300. Like I'm not even close to being the fastest listener or the highest volume. People are just like listening to so many words. The team is now about 120 folks, and we have a like really incredible 30-person AI team that just writes all the algorithms for the speech models, for the OCR models, for the natural language processing models to parse books, PDFs. And the goal is to make sure the reading is never a barrier to learning for anyone, no matter what your background is. So if you have low vision or ADHD or dyslexia or eye convergence issue or English is not your first language, but you have anxiety and you get like too stressed out about homework, you know, towards midnight, you know, just click play. And the more the document gets read, the less the anxiety stays.
You breezed over something that is super important for parents or anybody in school, which is this concept that with your iPhone, you can just take a picture of your textbook
Yeah.
and then have it read to you.
Yeah.
That is so huge for kids. I mean, so many of the terrible books that they get forced to read in school, there's no Kindle, there's no audiobook, there's no other options. And that like take a photo of stuff that's not digital already and it will handle it for you is enormous.
Enormous.
So I want to let's talk for a second about these incredible investors you have, because they're, you know, they're dyslexics who have become like some of the world's biggest billionaires, like Richard Branson and stuff. Talk to me about these awesome people who have supported you.
So I never wanted to take investment for Speechify in the beginning. I had built several other companies that were just like digital products that made me money when I was in college. And my dad kept trying to convince me to take money. And I was like, nah, I know what I'm doing. I don't want to have a boss. And eventually he convinced me. And then I go back to college, and then we have a call, and he's like, no, I decided I'm not taking money. And so the first version of Speechify, before it was even like really good, I put up a website. I integrated with Stripe, so you could pay me $100 as a pre-purchase. I made a video that made it really easy to see what Speechify would be, but it like with special effects, like just like Premiere Pro, Photoshop. And a bunch of people paid me $100, and I was like, yeah, I don't need any investors. And then I hired this, a couple of people on Upwork to help me with the project. I had some students. I was teaching computer science at Make School at the time, and I would guest teach classes at Brown. And then my brother started a cybersecurity business called Black SMS. He did his undergrad in math at Stanford, then he did his master's there. And Tyler raised money for his company, and he did really, really well. And I was like, oh, okay. And my dad came with this one argument that was really powerful, which is like, listen, do you actually want to solve dyslexia? And if so, do you want to do it in 5 years? Or do you want to do it in 10? Because if you want to do it in 5 years, like you better move faster. And like, this is the best way to do it. And he was right. And what I decided was I, for the most part, tried to avoid taking money from like, big funds, but I took money from folks who had built the types of products that I wanted to create. So Mike Krieger, who is the CTO founder of Instagram, Ev Williams was the founder of Medium and Twitter. Don Cass is the founder of Audible. Max is the founder of Grammarly. Vlad was the founder of Robinhood. Ryan, the founder of Honey. A bunch of folks like Richard Branson or Scott Sandell, who are extremely successful, but typically with all these people, either they have someone in their family who has dyslexia or ADHD, or they have themselves. And what we've realized is, this is very interesting statistics. So 5% of kids in public schools are diagnosed with dyslexia. 17% of the population has it, but most people don't know that they have it. 40% of people who are incarcerated have dyslexia, and also 30% of millionaires and 40% of billionaires have dyslexia. It's this type of thing where, like, if you're 8, 9, 10 years old and you suck at the one thing you're supposed to be doing in school, there's two options. The first one is you go down this dark path of you believe the school is not for you, adults are out to get you, the world is not supporting you, and like you go screw the system and you go down like not a great path. The second path is you bang your head against this brick wall for like 3 years because you're very bad at decoding when you're dyslexic. It's not a reading disability, it's a decoding disability. And so you never get to sight reading, which is you see the word, you immediately know what it says. But finally you get over it, and then you believe that you can do hard things. And your ego takes enough of a hit very young to not be tied to your ego. So you're okay to fail in things. And you learn that it's okay to ask for help. And you learn patience, and that it's okay to like not get validation from school or other external sources for like a long time before you pull it off. And those types of people, diamonds are made from the biggest amount of pressure. They're gems, and they can withstand just a lot of pressure. They know how to ask for help. They know how to like recruit other people to their mission. They know how to be vulnerable, and they have the humility to know that they're not the smartest person in the room every single time. So they end up being exceptional leaders. And so if you look at people like Branson, who are incredible entrepreneurs, typically it's because they just have a lot of humility, and they're good at hiring other people and trusting other people because they don't think that they can do everything themselves. And so that was very much my experience. And yeah, we just continued scaling from there. And we're very fortunate with the team we got to hire, just a lot of exceptional engineers and product designers, and builders through and through. And then my thesis has always been, I wanted to learn. So in 2020, we had a really strong product market fit. the product started taking off, I made a list of the top 20 best performing consumer subscription companies of the world. And I went down the list and I emailed, Facebook messaged, Instagram messaged, LinkedIn messaged, called, texted every CEO, every head of growth, every head of marketing, all these companies. We'd have a Zoom call like this. And then I'd be like, oh, you're in Copenhagen? I'm going to be in Copenhagen. And then I'd book a ticket to Copenhagen and we'd hang out for like a day or two. And I'd sit in their office and I'd learn how they run ads. And so we started accounting for 2.75% of mobile ad spend on Facebook in North America for productivity apps. And then the next year we became the 10th biggest spender on YouTube. And I made a list of all the top creators. And I would go and spend 2-3 weeks living in Logan Paul's house or Mr. Beast's house or Yes Theory, or like take any creator. I just like spent time learning how to make content from them. Became really good at making content. And then I did the same thing for learning how to do SEO really well. We hired Rohan, who now leads the SEO team at Speechify. Tyler joined to lead the AI team. Rajiv joined to lead performance. Pankaj joined to lead finance. Simon's done an amazing job as our COO and leads all the B2C products. Raheel leads, web. Lavon on mobile. Like, just the team is amazing. And we have 4 core principles: extreme product quality. We talk to users a lot. Leading with love. We take really good care of each other. I'm one of 5 kids. There's word in Tibetan called mudita, which is the feeling of well-being you get from the thriving of others. And so I feel this very much for other people, and I treat everybody else in the company in this regard like they're my sibling. Like I want the best for them. Speed is a core principle for Speechify, and it's the number one strategy. Is just do massive bias towards action. And frugality. We don't waste money on anything. When we hire, we look for people who learn really quickly. They have fire in the belly for the product and high loads to the team. We engage about 1,000 people in our interview process every single week. And then of those, a couple of hundred will do hands on keyboard, engineering coding tests. And then of those, a dozen or so will end up with interviews. And then the best of those will get an interview with me. And then, we'll do everything in our power to hire those people. And we hire internationally. So often it's people who are math Olympiad in Bulgaria, or the number 1 Kangol ranked person in Vietnam, or people who won the biggest hackathon in their state in the United States. And so we don't care where people are. We just care that they learn really fast and that they're passionate about what we're doing. And so the team for us is globally distributed and has been for almost 7 years now. And the goal is just to keep going and make sure that reading is never a barrier to learning for anyone. We have a huge opportunity around recommendation for material because we have so much data inside of the Speechify platform. And a lot of the work is just building exceptional models. One thing that we're focused on a lot right now is we used to build very much single player mode, and now we're starting to build with multiplayer mode as a central thing. So every feature we're building with the intention of allowing you to share stuff, allowing you to collaborate, allowing you to see content that other people are consuming. And then later there's a whole concept of being an auditory operating system and platform, especially as the world goes from less and less being driven by screens to more and more being driven by audio, because now you can do that communication super easily.
Amazing. So I my favorite thing about this show is I get to interview these people who built these giant companies really fast. And instead of all of the business press that's I think they did it this way, I just get asked the people that did it, right? So tell me a $1 billion success secret.
Whoa. There's many of them. Any particular area of the business, or any one of the secrets? Okay.
Let's start with this one. Because I liked your YouTube video where you talked about building an audience and getting attention. And if you want to grow something fast, you've got to do attention. And it's kind of this premise, it's a lot easier to get attention as the CEO, and then you can lend that to the brand. Can you talk about that principle? Because I'm a fan.
So let me actually say the thing that I originally thought of, and then I'll.
Okay.
So the first $1 billion secret is learn everything you can from books. If you're your number one role as a founder is to learn. You learn how to code, you learn how to design, you learn how to talk to users, you learn how to sell, you learn how to market, you learn how to do all these things. The best place to learn, by and large, is books, because it's extremely information dense. Podcasts are pretty good too. So I listen to 100 books a year. I've done that for 17 years. At a certain point, I've read almost all the books that there are out there. They start to repeat themselves. And so the next frontier is people. So you get really good at reaching out to people who are exceptional and learning everything from them. Just download the information into your brain. And then you learn from experiments. So like be very opinionated, have a clear vision towards you're running towards, and then adjust your framework along the way when the real world like gives you feedback of what the users actually want and what they don't want. So that's how to learn how to build really good things. In terms of like attention, there's two ways of getting attention on the internet: organic and paid. When it comes to organic, what I used to do is I would just make videos about like productivity stuff that I liked. And then people would come through because I would optimize the keywords. So I'd be like, all right, here's a video on how to block the recommendations in YouTube so they don't distract you. And you could do it using ad block in the following way. And I just screen record and put it out there. I made a video on how to use like an early version of Speechify. I didn't even call it Speechify. Like how to use text to speech Mac free. Publish it to the internet. I made a bunch about like keyboard shortcuts and how to use Google Sheets and like all these different things, entrepreneurship resources. And what I would do is I would post it on the Facebook groups for students at Brown. And then I had so much traffic to those, I ended up putting it as a Medium article. And then I wrote this 30-page paper about my worldviews and distilled down the 28 principles that I have that most other people don't. I put that on Medium. That became really popular. Like I would say like 8 of the first 20 employees from Speechify are people who directly messaged me because of that document. And then I was like, cool, we got some good traffic here. I started going to conferences where people were learning differences. And then I would do a backflip on the stage, demo. Security wouldn't kick me out. A bunch of school heads would fly me out to their schools. So I'd fly out to the school and I'd just chill, hang out for the entire day. Instead of just giving one talk, I'd go and sit in the back of every single class. I'd see where did Speechify break. Okay, there's an edge case on this random like Chromebook. There's an edge case on this like Windows PC. There's an edge case on this Android device or this like older iPhone. I'd fix those things. Oh, like the user can't figure out how to go through this onboarding. Let's redesign it, etc. And like I still have kids who I met when they were in 8th grade and they just graduated college and they're messaging me and they're like, hey, by the way, like all this journey was like, thank God for Speechify. And they're not even kids anymore, they're adults. But I met them when they were like 13. That's crazy. And so that was like level 1. Level 2 was I was like, okay, and then I wrote a book publicly online about my experience with dyslexia. So I committed to writing 500 words a day. I did it every day for 30 days. Every post, I would link back the previous post, and then I would go back and edit it and link back the new post. So even if they found like post number 3, they'd find post number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the beginning, I published like a summary and a table of contents of all the things I'm going to write, and then I would like update, like go and edit it and update the hyperlink when I wrote it. And then I went and learned how to.
What service did you do? Was that like
Facebook,
a Google, like a view Google? Oh, Facebook post.
Like just Facebook post to my Facebook page. This is when Facebook was like a lot more popular. And then I would take that same post and I would post it on like 3 groups that were relevant. And like I would get like 3,000 shares organically from my Facebook posts because it was just like a good post. And every single one of the posts would send people down this chain of like all the rest of my posts. And you could do this. The best place to do this today actually is LinkedIn. I should start doing this on LinkedIn again. So like that was amazing. And then what did I do next? Then I learned how to make videos that converted really well on Instagram and YouTube. I just got really good at like hooks, got really good at A/B testing ads. Recently, I've gotten a lot stronger on like TikTok. And I'd say for the last 3 years, I've been a lot less content focused, a lot more focused on building the AI team inside of Speechify and like doing large scale training and stuff like that. But we built a team that did really good. And this is what will always happen. Like you'll figure it out. You'll find all the arbitrage there is. You'll build the team underneath you. And with time, the quality will slightly go down. And then you go again and like you spruce it up. Unless you find like a really amazing leader and then that leader will solve it, but then they'll take more responsibilities. And then, eventually there's regression to the mean. So you always have to make sure that like the quality is like really, really high and you can't be obsessed enough. Like you have to apply really, really large amounts of rigor. And with the internet, especially in performance marketing, it's all about finding the arbitrage. So like figure out where the arbitrage is, like where can you educate people and give value? And in return, you'll get attention and they'll tell their friends about it and they'll convert and they'll trust you. And that's great. One thing that we did talk about is you can mitigate risk really well if you build your brand as an individual, which is different than the company. So like Elon Musk has a brand and Tesla has a brand. Richard Branson has a brand and Virgin has a brand. And so Richard can say things that Virgin can't say. Elon can say things that Tesla can't say. Cliff can say things that Speechify can't say. And so like a really good example is I'm from Israel. And when the attack occurred on October 7th, I was extremely vocal about it. And I got a lot of hate for being very vocal. I also got a lot of love. It's polarizing. Do you want to be that level of polarizing through the mouthpiece of your company? Probably not. But you can be as an individual. And the people who love you will then go to your product. The people who don't love you, well, if you want Israel not to exist, I'm cool with you not using my product. But there's like a bunch of things like this. And I could be like silly in videos and stuff like that, like slapstick humor, whatever. I had a call earlier today where somebody was asking me about this. And I was like, yeah, there's no like, the brand for Speechify is extremely authentic. And the nice part is it's really true to me. Like people are a lot more likely to convert on a piece of content that is a real human being than just like an ethereal company. And if you have a story that you can tell that story.
So I'm actually starting an entire new podcast about this. I partnered up with the guy. He was the head of all news for Bloomberg for the US and then for all the Americas. And then he became the head of news product globally for Bloomberg and retired after 32 years a year ago. And we just recorded our first two episodes. We record the next one tomorrow. And the whole thing is about CEO thought leaders. He's got this company where he has like New York Times and Washington Post and all these kind of Bloomberg journalists, former journalists that work for him and will like ghostwrite for CEOs, help them make their LinkedIn awesome and, you know, anything like that. So we are both like such fans of exactly what you just said. Like I started this podcast like 900 and something episodes ago, and I built 3 companies off of it since starting it, right? Like there's this great new book I read last week called Founder Brand of guy who left HubSpot, started a company called Drift, but they didn't have a product yet. So the author of the book got hired to help get attention for the CEO for 6 months until they could figure out what their product was, and they were going to start marketing it. And
right. Great way.
And like you said, people want to connect to a person, but most CEOs are like, "Oh, I'm too busy." They're scared of being criticized. Like it takes some personal sacrifice on the CEO's part to travel and go to speech. Like, you know, Daryl Eves and Sean Duras and Mr. Beast have that conference, Vid Summit. Like you had plenty of other things to do other than go out and be a speaker. You know what I mean? Like it costs a little bit of money and it takes some time and it's personal sacrifice for you. But yet there's such a big ROI because it's infinitely easier to get someone interested in another human instead of a logo. At least this is the gospel according to Jess. Feel free to disagree with me.
Yes, there are several places I disagree. The first one is you don't need to go in person. I enjoy going in person. So that's the first thing is like, do the things that give you energy. Like if you're really technical and the thing that give you energy is like communicating with like open source communities, do that like behind, you don't need to show your face. As long as you're creating value. So that's the most important thing is create value. You can create value and attribute it to yourself. You can create value and attribute it to the brand. You can create a value and attribute it to like God. I don't care what you attribute it to. I happen to really get energy from speaking to a crowd in person. It's something I enjoy. Like I'm a performer. That's one. 2, yeah, it's super high leverage to like sit in your bed at like midnight, write a post that's good and put it out there. So the question is too, like, what is the platform that you rock at? Like, I'm not too bad at copywriting. I'm excellent on camera. I'm excellent when I speak. And what are things that do not give me energy? I don't like writing not information dense things. So like, I'm not great for Twitter because I like to go really deep. So like, I don't use Twitter much. But like YouTube, speeches, podcasts, longer posts, great. The only problem is you're right. I haven't had time to do a longer post in a very, very long time. And it's very difficult.
And that's why I love podcasts and video for CEOs because it's pretty hard to be a CEO of a company of any size and not be decent at speaking. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not a real common thing that you are the face of the company and you don't know how to get the message out, right?
Yes and no, but yes, you're right. And you like, you know, if you're CEO, your number one job is just to sell, right? You're selling to the customer, you're selling in your marketing, you're selling to people who come pursue the dream. You just got to sell the dream.
So I want to talk specifically about this principle for like somebody who's trying to follow in your footsteps and build their own $1 billion brand. What thoughts would you have about that?
Okay, so let's say you haven't started. If I was to run the clock back and work on Speechify from the beginning, I actually would not start by running the software.
I would start by writing an email newsletter about dyslexia and text to speech. And I would post that newsletter publicly on LinkedIn every single day, daily. It has to be daily, because then you'll get more traffic and rewarded by the platforms. And at the bottom, I'd always say, if you want me to add you to the newsletter, drop your email in the comments. And then I'd hire virtual assistants to add your email from the comments to my newsletter. And the nice part is every comment is equivalent to a share on LinkedIn. It's a content efficient platform. And then I'd also have it on Substack, and I'd get that to like 10,000 people following. Then when I built the product, I would build it in public. I would like share videos of screen recordings of like what the product is. I would ask for feedback about things. I said, do you like this paywall? Do you like the sign up flow? Do you like this voice? Do you like this play? Do you like this like keyboard shortcut? Should it be option Q or option A? Like what should the shortcut be? And like do it inside of the community. I leverage Discord a lot more than I do. And I'd find the community that you enjoy and like just pick the platform that you spend time on. The important. I'm happy that I'm yawning when I'm talking, not when you're talking. Pick the platform that you enjoy spending time on. Just be careful that you don't get sucked into the platform too much. This is one thing that I haven't figured out as a person with ADHD. So I have the timer safety lock. It's a child safety lock turned on my phone, so I don't get more than 2 minutes a day of TikTok. No more than 2 minutes a day of Instagram. So I actually can't really easily create content, but I don't get sucked in. So what I have is my sister, who works on ads team for Speechify, will show up with her phone and like we'll record ads together, or I'll do this like with my girlfriend, and like that works really well. And it's a role that I'm trying to figure out how to hire someone full time for. It's kind of tough. But it's important. And one interesting thing is my brother Tyler, who's extremely technical. Like people talk about a 10x engineer, he's like absolutely a 20x engineer, right? He's great at the math for like KL divergence for like ML stuff, machine learning stuff. He's great at like building iPhone apps, building websites, backend SDKs. Really smart at law, really smart at accounting, really amazing CEO, very good at fundraising, all this jazz. 2017, I started working on Speechify. I hired a friend from Brown to come follow me around with a camera. I was like, what is this hubris? Why are you doing this? What a waste of time. This doesn't make any sense. And then, I don't know, like 8 months ago, we were having conversations. Like, he goes, what a fool I was. That was such a good move of yours. I did not clock why that was important, but you had an instinctive understanding of why that was important. I should have done that too. And even me, like, I didn't actually lean into it that hard. Very, very little. And you inspired me a lot when we met and talked about the value of having a podcast. I haven't pulled the trigger.
Podcasts and dinners.
Podcasts and dinners. Yep, exactly. I haven't done anything about it. I've talked to a lot to David Senra from Founders about this. I talked a bunch to Mr. Beast about this. I talked about to my friend and like 2 other creators about it. And I did reach out to some people, start, working towards it on this podcast with you. So I think that it's definitely going to happen. And you pitch podcasts as a platform really well. Like I'm sold. But you're right. The time investment is tough. And so I think the key is what gives you energy, do what gives you energy. Don't do what does not give you energy. And you got to stick with it. Even if the ROI is not readily evident 1 week, 2 week, 1 year in, stick with it, pick a platform and just grind. That's what Joe Rogan did. It worked out pretty well for him.
Love it. Okay. Give us another, like, again, back to my favorite thing about this show. There's so many people on the internet with opinions on how to build $1 billion business. There's so few people with experience. What's another one that's like, no, this is what helped me. This is what worked for us.
So the first and most important thing is to consider the fact that a company, the definition of the word, is a collection of people. A company is a vessel for you to achieve the outcome that you want. But the way that you do that, most importantly, is people. And so I said how a founder, your number one role is to learn how to hire, how to code, how to do whatever. A founder has 3 roles. Make sure there's enough money in the bank, set the vision, put the right people in the right seats. So let's say you have a good business. The strategy is there. Cash flow is there. Money's solved. Now to grow, you need excellent people and you need the vision to be clear. With Speechify, my vision was crystal clear. It's crystal clear for like 5-6 years. Like we didn't need to hire product people because it was very clear what we were going to do. And like for 3 years, we didn't have the amount of conversion and traffic and activation that we wanted, but on year 3, we cracked it. And it was not because the product changed. in terms of what the vision was. Sorry, I slept very little last night. It's not because the product changed in terms of what the vision was or what we did. What changed was like we executed better, like better engineering, better processes, better everything. But the vision was we were getting closer. And even today, we're like 90, 85% towards the product that I envisioned. And so if you can have a hot take in terms of your conviction, and I had this for text to speech, you might have it for podcasts or audiobooks or whatever it might be. But like if you understand something about the world that other people don't understand, and there's intrinsic value to that thing that you understand, and you're like you are willing to like die for this cause, like you will put everything on this cause, like everything, you'll bet everything on it. And that was me with text to speech. That's amazing. Just don't bet money, bet your time and effort. So that's vision. And then lastly, and most importantly, is people and recruiting. When we started, I had a CEO coach and we'd have conversations about how to hire. And he's like, oh, yeah, go hire professional software engineers from Snapchat and Apple and Google and Facebook. And I hired those people and they sucked. Like they over-engineered things. They were not building fast. They were not scrappy. They were not as motivated. The smallest shake would occur in the company, and they can go back to Facebook or Google, which happens. Better to take bets on people who are not yet proven, but have the fire, and you can have high aptitude to become amazing, and they're good enough and competent enough now. So they'll be more affordable. They will learn. They'll grow into incredible people to work with. And so leadership, I define as seeing the greatness in others before they see it in themselves. And if you develop that skill of being able to spot talent before they see it themselves, and then you're really good at crafting agreements that make it easy for them to give their all and get rewarded for it, and you have a framework that makes it easy to onboard them and give them support, you're basically guaranteed to win. And then the much more challenging thing is when to let people go. So people wait way too long before they let people go. Like if you join Speechify the first 20 days, you should assume that there's an 80% chance that you will not make it the 20 days, because like you just have to have so much fire, and you need to bring a lot of like personal agency and motivation and initiative, and like it's very technical problems. Like the rest of the team is like very, very fast moving, really, really sharp. But like you want to give the opportunity to as many people as possible that pass your initial bars. And we hire internationally, so it's easier for us to like test a lot of people. And no matter how smart you are on an interview, you'll never figure out whether someone is like good enough. Like you'll get a heuristic, but like the only way to know is to work together on the same team and have them on the hip of someone who is on the team for 2 weeks plus, and then you'll know. And so the biggest force multiplier for success of a business, with the exception of like the vision, is the people that you hire, both in terms of individual contributors on the field for us as engineers, or people on the leadership team. And then the last process that I'll say is really important is leadership at Speechify. It's not given; it is earned. So you're not leading a division because I said you led a division. You lead a division because you came into the division as an individual contributor in a division, and then it became clear that you were the person who was contributing the most value. And then you had clear vision. You talked to more users. People, demur to you because you have just like great vision and ability to teach them. And then you end up leading the division. And that's every leader we have at Speechify. That's how they start. They start as a member of the team. Probably others know that they have the opportunity to be a leader. And if they earn the leadership over time, they become the definitive leader of the team. Not because the team was told this person's going to be a leader, but because that person earned the title.
I want to go back to this idea of you can't really figure someone out in an interview. When you think about like skills testing and a probation period, and can we dig into that like a little more granularly, what that looks like for you guys?
So I'll talk about it as it relates to engineering, because that's most of the people we hire. We'll engage with like 1,000 people online. We'll do a test for like roughly 100 a week. And that test is a 3-hour hand on keyboard exam. Let's say it's for the AI team. So we'll test you on computer vision, natural language processing, text to speech, parameter whispering, optimization questions. 80% of people don't pass that test. 20% of people do. 10%, depending on the time of year. We go bigger or lower depending on the time of year. Of those 10%, those 10% clear the bar. They're smart enough. They're experienced enough. They're competent enough. Now the question is, do they work hard enough? Do they work fast enough? And do they take enough initiative? And are they good enough product? So they'll have a product interview where we'll ask them questions, and another half of people don't pass that. And that's like, we'll talk to you about what product we're trying to build. And like, what we're looking for is for you to ask the right questions to see that you'll be great to work with, because it's not just that you'll only work well with an exceptional manager. You'll also be a really good self-starter, and like, you have a good product sense. Okay, so now you're at 5%. The vibe check passes. You're going to work with a team. Amazing. What you can't figure out in the interview is how self-directed somebody is. So that fire in the belly that I talked about, it's key. And especially if you're a remote team, it's easier to have fire in the belly where you're all working in the same office together. Like, there's accountability, because like, I might be there, Simon might be there, but not like most people who work at Speechify, like, they're in their house. So I need them to be self-motivated. And if they're not self-motivated, it's not going to work. Now, that's also on me. I decided to build a remote first team, which, by the way, I really enjoy. But that means that, yeah, 50% of people I can't work with now because they're not capable of being self-directed enough. And, I myself have raging ADHD. And so I have a lot of systems that make me succeed. But if I didn't treat my ADHD, I would not be able to work at Speechify. So I found tools to make myself succeed, even with my neurodiversity. And so we only want to hire people who, if they have a neurodiversity, they figured out how to make it work. If they don't have a neurodiversity, they are the type of people who have figured out how to enjoy being self-directed.
So I want to pitch you on my campaign I'm thinking about starting. I think that it's fine if people want to label me ADD, but I think that they have to accept the label CDD,
Okay.
creativity deficit disorder, because it's like,
That's so funny.
By the way, another population for you for Speechify. I don't know if you've read or have heard of Dr. Douglas Brackman's book called Driven about ADD, but he works really closely with the special operations community. And basically goes through
a lot of special forces, firefighters. We have a lot of forestry, like, rugged people love Speechify, and by and large, it's people who did not want to spend another 8 years reading books. They wanted to like go work with their hands and like do things in the field, but they still need to pass qualifications, pass manuals, know how to do things. They're on the move. Nurses as well. Like, this population is amazing for Speechify. Sorry, keep going.
Well, it's just, so they actually show there's like a genetic marker about 3% of the population have, and they go back through these like National Geographic stuff from hundreds and hundreds of years ago that show this marker. It's like 97% of the population wants to stay here and farm, and 3% want to go over the mountain and go hunting, go see what's on this other mountain. But it's like, comedians, actors, entrepreneurs, action sports athletes, special ops guys, like these people who can deal with uncertainty. There's a huge correlation to ADD, and are probably potential clients for you.
100%. That's a good point.
We've got a bunch of them that our Charity Child Rescue Association that combats child trafficking. It's, we used to be led by a Delta Force guy. We've got a number of those guys in SEALs and SF and stuff that help us. And I can really attest, like, there's a reason that so many big Army folks get out and get a job, and so many special ops folks get out and start a business. And so anyways, that's a potential. And you can probably get the military to pay for it for everybody too. So buy it en masse.
That would be a great partnership for me to strike.
So I really like what you're saying about people. I want to talk about remote because so both my commercial real estate fund, Greystoke Investments, and our media company, Greystoke Networks, that makes the podcast for people and we make other shows, are remote. So there's only two of us that are actually in the same location. It's my one partner and my brother. We're both together in Utah. And then we've got, Canada, Venezuela, Argentina, Guatemala, Philippines, France. Like we're all over the place. And like, I gotta say, like, personally, I actually love working together with people. I do, but we just get such good people at the right price who are like, they think podcasting is the coolest thing ever. Like, by the way, Brazilians love podcasting. We got like such great folks from there that are just like, because it's like taking that country by storm.
So Brazil, from the very beginning, was the second biggest country using Speechify.
Oh, really?
After the US and China. And it's because in China, obviously, characters make reading a real, not great experience. But Portuguese is a horrible language to read, like terribly designed language. And so by and large, reading speed in Brazil is far lower. And so they love audiobooks and they love WhatsApp audio messages and they love podcasts.
Sorry, keep going.
Well, so here's my point is, we, so my brother and my one partner that I've worked with since 2002, I've actually never lived in the same city as him. So California to Canada, then we were both in Canada, but different countries. Now it's, Park City area to Canada. And so we've always had some element of remote. And then those last kind of, I don't know, since 2015, whatever that is, we've been mostly remote. And I don't feel like I have the game completely figured out. So I want to hear advice on how do you build what's the $1 billion secret for remote teams? So I love self-starter and the fire in the belly. I get that so much. I'm just resonating with that so much, but give me more.
So by the way, the companies to study are Atlassian and GitLab. They wrote the textbook. So creativity in person, execution remote. So a lot of the AI model stuff that we're doing requires a lot of creativity. So I'm trying to get a couple of our AI team in person for a couple of days. But running ads, building mobile app, building Chrome extension, building SDK, all that totally fine remote. We, for the last 7 years, have by and large, we've stayed in a different house every 4 months. So either LA...
The leadership team or who's we?
Leadership team. So we've stayed either Providence, Rhode Island, San Francisco, Palo Alto, London, Germany, back to LA, Miami, Seattle, New York, back to London, Israel, Florida, and then we're going to go back to London. So for me, it's great because when you're in your 20s, you don't have a house, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have kids. It's the best time to travel, but you're working 80 hours a week on your business. So what you do is you just get a house in a different place in the world every 4 or 5 months. And you move all your best friends with you who are working with you, who happen to also be in their 20s. So not everybody is doing this with me. Our head of engineering, he has 2 kids, 2 guinea pigs. He has a house. And we actually went, a huge credit to Rajiv. We went 5 of us stayed in his house for a week. And I think it was his favorite week of the year. But me, Rohan, Simon, Tyler, we'll go and do this together. And that's amazing. Because you'll work out, you're talking about the business. It's 3 a.m. You go get a cup of water, Simon's there and he'll talk to you. And we have even this joke called the kitchen monster. So we did this with friends who also run companies, like Nima, for example, who runs Atlas. And we have a joke that Cliff is the kitchen monster, where if you come to the kitchen at midnight, Cliff will get you to talk about your company and what you're working on. And then Cliff will go to sleep, but Tyler will show up at 3 a.m. and he'll start talking to you. And it's amazing to work remote too, because people are working in different hours. So you could start a project in California, hand it to someone in Australia, who'll hand it to someone in Poland, who'll hand it to someone in London, who'll hand it to someone in New York. By the time it gets back to you, the project is 80% complete. It's absolutely amazing. The ability to find talent internationally is ridiculous. What we have now gotten to is we'll have enough density of people in different cities.
Yeah.
We have enough density in different cities that people start getting little apartments to work out of together. So it's not just the leadership team. It's also each individual team is starting to have something like this, and that'll grow over time. And so I think that as we're getting bigger, we will end up with not the classic version of remote hybrid, but there'll be pods of communities of people who work at Speechify. And again, at the end of the day, a company is a collection of people. So we're 120 now. We'll end up being 250. Probably not too far away in the future. And I love the concept of people working together. We also love communities. So we have 7 sets of siblings who work at Speechify. We have 4 married couples working at Speechify. If someone's really smart, their siblings have the same DNA. Nature versus nurture, they got nurtured the same way. And I have this belief that if you really trust someone, they're worth double a normal person. And so you really trust your siblings by and large. And so we'll always encourage people to refer their siblings. And if they're great, we'll always hire them and we'll invest so much more. And same thing for partners, because it's great. If the person who's running Android and, his partner is running customer success for Android, amazing. If you have one person who is doing one side and the partner does the other side, it's just really, really helpful. And then we love async. I hate meetings.
Tell me about async, because that's another one I haven't mastered.
Cool. we're good at this. So we almost never do meetings. We hate meetings. Like if it's a meeting, it's like me and you, maybe you, me, and one other person. But like there should almost never be a meeting where you're just sitting and listening. If you're not talking, you shouldn't be in the meeting. It should be an email. The other thing is like written culture for us is big. So everybody uses Speechify. So like you'll just breeze through the document at like 500 words per minute. Um, we love Slack. We love WhatsApp audio messages. I'm addicted to Google Sheets. Like all my life is organized in Google Sheets, and I'll pull stuff from Amplitude and put it there. Amplitude is where we can track all our data. Amplitude and Segment. I'm like constantly pick random phone calls. I do like 50 3-minute phone calls a day, like constantly. And it's just like I check in with people. I encourage people to call me. Everybody has my number. If I can't pick up, I'll call you later. If I can't pick up, send me an audio message, or I'll send you an audio message, like asynchronous, and you listen to it at double speed. Just like speed of information is like so good. And if you were in the office, yes, there's some moments where like it would be amazing to work in person, but I also know that I get pulled into like things I don't want to deal with. So like I get to control my schedule a lot more because like if I'm while we've been on this meeting, 3 people called me. So I declined all 3 because I'm with you, but I'll call them back after. Or I'll just send them a text. I love Tim Ferriss, his book, The 4 Hour Work Week. And there's a trick I learned there, which he goes, yeah, if you work in the office, just put on headphones. We'll be like half as likely to try and interrupt you, even if you're not listening to music. And then if someone calls, but you don't want to engage in the call, pick up and be like, hey, I'm just super busy with something in the moment. How can I help? And then the fact that you went, I'm super busy and how can I help, turns what could have been like a 15-minute call into like a 2-minute call. And so even better than that is, if you don't have the time for a call, just force them to text you. Alex Ramosi talks about this a lot. You want to send people audio message and you want them to give you back text numbered. And I do this a lot. I will be like, okay, here's the conclusions. Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the things that I need from you in that order. By what date? So we have single threaded leaders for every project. So let's say I message the team and I go, hey, I want to launch fingerprinting for attribution on iOS. Who's going to be DRI? Like single threaded leader. And by what date will this be launched in production? And then you have to give me the date. And if you don't know the date, you have to respond within like 20 minutes, at least telling me that you saw the email and when you're going to give me the full response. And our head of engineering is incredible at this. Rohan, who leads growth at Speechify, is incredible at this. Simon, Pankaj, all the leadership team are like amazing. And then we've also had a phenomenal experience over the last 2 years where a lot of people who like were part of teams as very strong ICs have just like leveled up into incredible leaders. And that we're very fortunate for. So like just the chemistry inside the team has been like great.
Yeah. One of my favorite questions to ask folks who have built a business to your level is, there's so many different definitions for product market fit. What is it to you?
Every day, 1,000 people come and they're willing to give you money for a product. And like Tuesday, they're there. Wednesday, they're there. Friday, they're there. Next month, they're there. Next year, they're there. So when we in 2020 started to have ads work really well for us, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop out for it to stop working. It didn't stop working. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, there were moments where like Facebook, changed something about their ad system, or Google did, or Apple released ATT and it like messed something with the system. But you just become anti-fragile and you learn how to acquire users not only on Facebook and Instagram, but also Google and YouTube and SEO and TikTok and affiliates and referrals and organic and direct mail and everything. So like another thing we think about a lot is like not just capturing existing demand, which is like people search for your thing and you lead them in, but also how do you generate new demand? Like people who didn't think about wanting your product, how do you get them to come use your product? And then based on the traffic that you get to your SEO pages, what are new products that you should be creating? But that's my definition.
Well, I want to talk about that as well. But before we get to it, when you think about other folks who feel like, we've got a good product, but we don't have the level of product market fit that I'm satisfied with. I loved you talking about going and sitting in the back of the classroom and saying like, oh, this Chromebook's having this problem, this Windows PC is having that problem. What else did that look like? Or what else does that look like for you for iterations?
The most important thing we ever did in the company is in the early days, and every single person should do this if you're building a technical product, even if it's an education product, it doesn't matter. 20% of the screen in the bottom, like literally 20, like you think I'm kidding, I'm not kidding. Like
Like if this is the screen, this much of the screen is the button. Red, message/help. Message us, help/message us. And if you clicked it, it wasn't intercom, it wasn't email, it was my personal phone number. It would pull up a modal on iMessage and you'd iMessage me. And I would respond. And at a certain point, there was so much traffic that I came up with this brilliant idea. It was not just me. It would come up, it would be my phone number and Simon's phone number. Then it became my phone number and Simon's phone number and like 2 other engineers. Then we created group text between you and 4 people in Speechify who are like the engineers working on the project. And then they were all over the world. So it didn't matter when you message us. 3 a.m., you get a response within like 3 minutes. And then if you didn't respond, we'd follow up with you to make sure we got a response. And if you didn't respond, I would call you in FaceTime audio or FaceTime and like figure out the problem. So like that was great and made our product amazing.
I love that so much.
And at a certain point, it like stops being scalable. But like credit to Chaitu, who was our head of product for a long time. He launched a new project, audiobooks, and he reintroduced this concept. So he would not send them to Intercom. He would send them to his own personal like Apple ID. Amazing. And you can do that like 1/10 of the time. That's what happens. So that's great. The next thing that's great is we had a time that was really tough for Speechify. It was probably the lowest moment that I had, maybe 2.5 years in. Crypto was doing really well, tempted to go do something in that space. And I decided I didn't believe enough in crypto creating real value in the next 10 years. Maybe after that, yes. But I really believed in AI and really believed in audio. And I was like, okay, Speechify is a thing. The problem is that we didn't have the retention rates that I wanted or the activation rates that I wanted. And I was really frustrated by this. And so in the end, what I did is I took 100 users' emails in a Google Sheet and I would sit, and again, it's iOS users. So they're all tied to their Apple ID. And I would Apple ID call these emails, 100 calls a day. And I would get demolished. Like they would tell me what the bugs are. They'd be frustrated. They'd be this, they'd be that. But no one told me I don't need your product. Everybody told me what was bad about my product. They still wanted to use it. They were just mad at me that it was not good enough. And it was like being told your baby is ugly to your face over and over and over again, like emotionally so demoralizing. And like Simon would come and he'd like rub my shoulders and he'd get me a cookie and he'd like, bag me a bagel and be like, 5 more, Cliffy, just 5 more, 10 more, 10 more. It's like the boxer in the ring and like the coach. And I did this for like a week. And then after that, we knew what to do and we fixed it and things got a lot better. And I would go to Stanford in person and I would just like make friends with people. I'd click screen record and then I'd see what I did this with you actually. We had someone who walked up to us and he didn't know how to use the Mac, the audiobooks product. Boom, I recorded it, I sent it to the team, and those problems get fixed. And we use Linear to track all of the issues. But yeah, it's really emotionally draining. And after doing this for enough, I realized like I was suffering from it. And I hired somebody else to go and do the user interviews. And for 2 years, I didn't do it. And then I came back. But even now, like I have to admit, I get triggered by them. It's really tough for me emotionally. There's a guy, Nick, who has a company called Revolut, and they have this team called Product Operations, and like the team is responsible for this exact thing. And now we built internally an LLM that'll capture all these things and put them into Linear and like optimize it for like better product experience.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're talking about like, do you really have conviction for something, right? For a business. So I want to run past the conversation my one partner, Nick, and I had this morning and get your feedback. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
So, do you know Christopher Lochhead? They wrote Play Bigger. Have you seen that book?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. You'd love it. It's about like basically the number one way to become a category king is to invent your own category.
Yeah.
And he said like the thing is you're actually doing it. He's like, don't go sell your product, evangelize the problem, because if you're the best one at describing the problem, people automatically assume you must know the answer. Right. So like you going on evangelizing dyslexia and the reading and the da-da-da, there's anyways, you're following this playbook, you just didn't know it, so you'd love the book. So read the book many times, recommended it to so many CEOs, had him on the show a week ago. And he was like 10 times better than the book. It was awesome. Okay. But he just really hammers kind of the same thing, like, Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 or Blue Ocean Strategy or Different, the Young Me Moon book, the Harvard CMO. Jack Trout, Differentiator Die. This whole idea of like quit competing, like competitions for losers.
Yeah.
You guys are going to become like each other and then you're just going to slit each other's throats on price. Like be like Warren Buffett. Try and get as much of a monopoly as you can with a big moat around it and a big castle wall, and right? And like defensively different, like still valuable, but defensively different, right? And I'm like, my podcast agency is great. We get we have clients like Bloomberg and Columbia University and all these CEOs where we line up all the fancy guests for them and they have the show. It's great. We're not that special. Like we're a little special because we will line up people who built billion-dollar brands to be your guest, and you like the CEO only takes them an hour a week because we do absolutely everything, including writing their social media. They just like we'll do anything they want, right? So it's like for super busy CEOs, we have an edge, but we're not like we didn't invent the iPhone, okay? So this has really been bothering me. Of like, is this like because for us this is like there's like Red Bull Media House and Red Bull of like Bloomberg News and Bloomberg terminals, right? Like 95% of the money comes from Bloomberg terminals. 95% of the profits come from Red Bull cans, but they're like for-profit marketing arm disguised as a media company is what makes the other half valuable, right? That's kind of like Greystoke Networks, Greystoke Investments. So I'm thinking like, what can we do that's different? Because I do love the media. I love this conversation right here. Lifelong learner. And so here's my pitch is, I think for like our next show, I think what we're going to do is call all these like billionaires and, high growth founders who've been on the show and say, hey, sometimes being a CEO sucks. Sometimes being an entrepreneur sucks. What sucks for you right now? Like, what's the challenge you're up against? I will go find a world expert on that. And like, tell me what question you want answered. My team will go find a world expert on it, or I'll call one of the other billionaires or billion-dollar founders or these people, and I'll just interview them. But instead of like coming back to you one-on-one answer, I'm going to make a video of it, and I'm going to share the answer I'm going to share the question and the answer with everybody. And then we'll do this for a while, and then probably go on to like, webinars or conferences or in person of like, get CEOs of a similar level. Like, so $10 billion company founders get this meeting, 1 to 10 billion, $1 billion to 100 million, 100 million to, I don't know, 20 million. Like, so have these like groups of peers where it's like, you guys were all interested in this question. I got this guy to fly out for the thing. This is kind of, it's a little loose, I know. But to me, like, there's so much media out there, but I don't see something that's like 100% CEO focused and 100% actionable focused. And my thought is like, instead of like trying to figure out what people want and push it on them, it's like, just go ask, what's your problem? Start with the problem first. I don't know. Give me your feedback.
So the dichotomy here that's interesting is people are either in a mode in their life of learning or creating. So explore or exploit. When I was in college, I was very much in explore mode. And then around 2016, when I started Speechify, I shifted pretty hard into exploit mode. And then I would say that maybe like 15% of the time is still dedicated towards learning, but like even that's a stretch, like 5 to 3%. Like the majority is just execute. And if I can, I'd rather hire someone to execute for me, unless nobody can figure it out. So attribution for ads, no one can figure it out. How to make better converting ads, no one can figure it out. AI, not realistic for me to learn. Cool, my brother can learned it, can't believe the team. Absolutely fantastic. Some legal stuff I'll learn, some legal stuff I'll hire a lawyer. Sometimes it's knowledge you don't want everybody else to know because there's an arbitrage play. Sometimes it's knowledge that if everybody else knows, that's fine, who cares? If you were to come to me on a daily basis and ask me, like, what is the thing that you need to know that you don't know how? The majority of things that I know about, I want to be the only person who knows. I don't want other people to know how to do. That's like execution, how to do better ads, how to do better AI, how to do better whatever. In terms of team leadership, great. All the teams should operate the best. So team leadership is universal. And then the question is, how many people, their main thing is how to hire, how to recruit, how to manage, how to deal with back office, etc. And to what degree is that pain a pain? And then a lot of the times this gets solved by SaaS products. So I think that if I was to try and monetize it the most, I would figure out what the right SaaS product is. So maybe if you want to figure out how to do this lucrative, figure out the category of SaaS products that are growing the fastest. And
I'm gonna pause you for 1 second. The
Yeah.
revenue driver here is buy into my commercial real estate fund and get passive income. Like we're starting at $100 million raise on that, but we want to become like a multi-billion dollar REIT.
And is the ideal investor for the real estate company a CEO?
Yeah. Entrepreneur, made enough money.
So in that case, you have a very specific problem that all these people have, which is they have all this money lying around and they don't know how to maximize it. So what are they afraid of? They're afraid of inflation eroding the value of the capital. They're afraid of not getting enough return compared to the S&P. They're afraid of not knowing what companies to invest in, given that there's AI and whatever. They're afraid of not knowing how to do tax loss harvesting. They're afraid that if they were to buy their own real estate, like should they do an interest only loan? Should they do, all up front? Where do they broker the right loan? They don't know if to invest in triple net or residential or commercial. And so if I was starting a business, if that's the thing I would write articles on each one of the topics that I just discussed. And then I would bring people who could talk about triple net, interest only, residential versus commercial, what part of this United States to buy in, how to hire the right, real estate manager to manage the tenants in the units. And I would do episodes on each one of like the major REITs that are like publicly traded. And then in every one, I would say, hey, and if you don't want to deal with all this stuff yourself, just invest in our, commercial real estate fund. Like we do it for you. Here's the tax benefit breakdown, yada, yada, yada. And they might think, oh, well, I want to invest in real estate because I want to write off the depreciation because I have all this income and I want to file it on my Schedule E. And then, explain the pros and cons every single time. So I would hone in not on how to build a company. I would hone in on what should you do with your passive income that is just like lying in your bank account that you're earning through dividends, and like where should it go and what percentage should be allocated portfolio allocation. Tony Robbins is a great book, Money Master the Game, that I listened to when I was a lot younger, and it was very helpful. And I did most of the things he said in the book. I opened a Vanguard account. Like I did a bunch of these. Ramit Sethi had a book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, very similar. And they had like great starter advice. So that would be the sphere of advice that I would give if I was trying to find a person who would be an ideal investor for a commercial real estate fund.
Interesting. Okay, great. I love it. Now I got to go back and have another whiteboard conversation. So maybe before we let you go, give us another $1 billion success secret.
We talked a little about strategy. We talked about content. We talked about hiring. We talked a little bit about marketing.
Let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about a hook. You spent the time to learn how to do a good hook. Talk about that.
Okay. So first, let's talk about videos. If you want to crush it with a video, what matters the most is the first 3 seconds. Even more than the first 3 seconds, it's actually the first picture, like the first 1080p. You got to have a crazy background. Wear something that is like provocative or interesting. Be in like a pattern interrupt situation. So like one of our best ads ever was like I wore a suit and I went in a pool with red headphones on with like a bunch of like crazy photos behind me. And like, why is the guy in the suit in the pool? So like, what are things that like doesn't make sense, right? It's like stand in a kitchen with a bunch of snakes on you and like try to make it as crazy as possible. Swim in a pool of yogurt. Like, what are crazy things that are like really interesting that like, I got to know how this ends. And like the person doesn't even need to say anything for it to convert. So like, that's one. Second is look at other pieces of content that are converting high and then figure out what the minimum viable product that makes that content succeed and then duplicate it in your own thing where you take some creative license and you apply your brand. Maybe you merge it with another video, but like you don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. Like look at videos that are already like bangers, high converting, duplicate those, and then A/B test, especially if you're doing ads. I'll write like 100 hooks. I'll write the back end of the ad and then I'll test all the ads. Students with dyslexia save 10 hours a week with this Chrome extension. People with ADHD save 10 hours a week with this Chrome extension. Doctors save, X amount of time studying for their boards. Nurses save blah, blah, blah. And then you run all those and we found that ADHD was the best one. And chain those hooks. Charging annual subscription is always better than monthly because the moment that a user is most likely to pay for your product is when they first learn about it. It's when it's the most exciting. So offer a soft paywall in the beginning before you introduce them to the product.
they've gotten introduced via the ad and maybe via the onboarding. If they pay, retention will increase. And then find something that is unique. Like funny converts really well on YouTube and short form. But if you can include appeals to pathos and logos on top of that, that's amazing. Your call to action at the end is extremely important. Identify what platform has really low CPMs. So, for example, when Reels launched on Instagram, super low CPMs, but people were not very good at converting people to click throughs. So we built like this really cool animation that would like point at the thing at the bottom and like got you to click. And so we were able to advertise really well on a very low CPM asset of inventory, but with really high click through rates that were not usual for that inventory. So like those little like arbitrage games end up being super helpful.
I love it. Well, I think one of the most, for sure, the most inspirational moment out of our last 2-hour conversation was when you said, I can't remember what we were talking about, but you said, I exist to conquer dyslexia. I don't know exact words, but I remember the feeling.
To solve dyslexia. Like, that's why I'm here. Yeah.
And I just like really felt the transference from you on that. And like it really affected me to think about that. And I'm interested, like, there's so many people that would like to have accomplished what you have. What do you think you've done differently?
Give me a second. A lot. And I will tell you the things. I'll try to summarize them. So let's start from that line, which is very true. Like, I exist to solve dyslexia. Like, that's why I'm on this earth. And it's very rare to be a person like me who, actually, it's not that rare, but so a lot of people are twice exceptional. They both have a very severe learning difference and they're very smart. So that a lot of people are like this. A lot of people talk about EQ, emotional intelligence, or IQ, intelligence quotient. But the thing that I have that's off the chart is AQ, adversity quotient. I will not give up no matter what on things. Like when I was 6, I saw Jackie Chan do a backflip in a movie. I decided to need to learn how to do a backflip. When I was 13, 14, 15, I was still practicing backflips and I learned them. I'm 29, I still do backflips all the time. Like I have goals from 22 years ago relating to music and other stuff I'm still chasing. I just don't give up. So in those 3 years of building Speechify, I just never gave up. Text-to-speech was invented in 1962. It predates the internet. But no one put in the work to make text-to-speech work, let alone make the user experience behind it work. And I kept waiting for someone to do it. I would message the teams at Apple and at Google to try and like get this outcome. And I never succeeded in having them respond to my emails. Eventually, I was like, all right, I got to do it myself. I decided early on that I probably was going to end up being an entrepreneur. I was like 17. Going to college, I majored in renewable energy engineering and in economics. And I dropped economics halfway through because I realized that I wasn't getting too much from the classes. I got all that from reading books anyway. So I picked up computer science because it was the hardest thing that I could do. And I knew that I would not learn it on my own. And same thing for physics. And there's a quote by Paul Graham. There's an essay actually called Going Upwind. If you don't know where to go upwind. Like go to the, like pick up potential energy. And I did that in a lot of points in my life. And then I tried a lot of things. I did a lot of tests. I read a lot of books. I built a lot of things. Towards the end of college, I wrote a 30-page paper about my worldviews, and I distilled down the 28 principles I believe that most of the people don't believe in. And that gave me real clarity on what I should be doing and the direction I should be going in and who I should be talking to and what books I should be reading and what actions I should be taking. And then I just did not waver from that mission at all. Straight. And any information I had that would come in front of me, I would, use it. So for example, I was really, really believing in the Mac app for a long time. And I realized it has to be a Chrome extension and iPhone app because normal people do not use Mac apps. Those are for engineers, right? Keyboard shortcuts, you can't expect a normal person to use them. So like there are things I changed about the formation of the product, but the end goal of solving dyslexia never went away. And I knew that if I didn't solve it, nobody else would. And so another thing I believe is like above everything in life, my mission is to be the person that I needed most when I was growing up. I was very lucky to have my parents. Most kids do not have parents that have the time to read books to them like my parents did and to support them like my parents did. And I feel so fortunate to be alive today. And I felt so fortunate when I was like 12, 13, 14 that audiobooks existed. Because if I came around 10 years earlier, books would not have been there when I was in elementary school. My life would have been very different. Like there was no Jim Dale reading Harry Potter. Either you could read it or you couldn't. And
I don't know what I would have ended up being. I would still been a good leader. I would still been a good athlete, good musician, but like I would not be erudite like I am today. And that's like terrifying to me. I don't know if you ever like crossed the street without noticing and then had this like moment of like fear. Oh my gosh, I could have been hit by a car. Like that's what I feel about if I was born 15 years earlier, because I would not have had audiobooks. That would have been terrible. Well, I'm sad that I didn't have Speechify back then. And now I'm so happy that kids do have Speechify. Every 6, 7, 8, 9 year old. It doesn't matter that you can't read well. It'll solve the problem for you. And maybe he can even hear about my story and go, you know what? He's dyslexic. He's not even Richard Branson's age. He's pretty young. I can have the same exact style of career, and you can't, because it doesn't stop you at all. And so that was really important. And I think that you're right. Some people learn very early what their mission in life is. Maybe you're going to be an Olympic skier. Maybe you're going to be an author. Maybe you're going to solve cancer, whatever it might be. I figured it out when I was 22. And it's hard to figure it out. Like committing is difficult. And I committed also to not working on other things. I have at least 100 business ideas a day. I don't pursue them. I just go for Speechify. Even with music, all the music I write is relating to dyslexia and ADHD because I want to promote the product. I don't want to waste time on unrelated things. And we're 25 million users now. We'll be 250 million probably in the next like 2.5, 3 years. And then, in 5 to 10 years, we'll be 2.5 billion people. And I will have properly solved dyslexia. Everybody will use it. Everybody will know about it. I'll be able to go into every office, every school, and say, hey, my name is Cliff. I have dyslexia. Anybody else has it? Great. Anyone has ADHD? Sweet. Who's heard about Speechify? And all the hands will stay up. Who uses Speechify? And all the hands will stay up. And like, this is a future that will be the case in 5 to 10 years from now. And this problem that I had growing up, it won't be people's problems anymore. Like those kids, you talked about, I could be ADHD, attention deficit disorder, if you can have creative deficit disorder. You'll have all these kids that have all the creativity in the world, but no one can notice that they have attention deficit disorder or dyslexia because those things are completely irrelevant. It's like someone who needs glasses. And in the past, they couldn't do things because they couldn't see. Maybe they couldn't read. Maybe they couldn't fly a plane. They couldn't drive a car. No one doesn't have a driver's license because they have short-sightedness anymore. It's completely an irrelevant problem. I'm wearing contacts right now. You wouldn't be able to tell. It's a completely irrelevant problem. And what's crazy to me is dyslexia already is a completely irrelevant problem, but it'll be really an irrelevant problem in like 5 to 10 years when everybody has Speechify. Totally, totally irrelevant. Now, I personally, though I have severe ADHD, don't use Adderall, don't use Ritalin, don't use Vyvanse. I'm like very anti medication. Some people use it and it really changes their lives. So like obviously there's exceptions, but by and large, I treat it by exercising really hard, sleeping really well, eating really healthy, and using Speechify. Like I don't like the idea of using like extreme medication on your brain because we don't know how the brain works. Like yes, it passes FDA approval, but we actually don't know what the long-term impact is. And it also like changes your personality. I just don't like it. So not only will I get the privilege of solving dyslexia, I'll get the privilege of solving ADHD, and I'll get the privilege of solving reading for the 25% of the population who has vision issues that are not correctable by reading glasses. Like I have convergence issue, I have keratoconus, Tyler has severe astigmatism and is blind in his left eye. My grandmother has cataracts. Like all these people, it's actually such a big problem, and it's an invisible disability. In the same, like you see someone in a wheelchair, you can empathize. But like someone like you, someone like me, we want to learn so bad. We want to be the best version of ourselves so bad, but we can't. There's this massive barrier between us and who we want to be. Like I have a vision for when I was a kid. I had a clear vision for who Cliff was, right? Like big chest, standing on top of this mountain, carrying this flag. People want to follow him. He's erudite. He understands the world. But there was this huge discrepancy between who I was and who the world saw me as and who I actually wanted to be. And I'm very fortunate that I have tools like Speechify and like audiobooks and like touch typing and email that let me solve that problem. And I can rely on the fact that I'm a decent speaker and I'm a decent writer, even though, thank God for spell check. When I was in 3rd grade, like I'd write things exactly like your son. Not 3rd grade, 8th grade. And my teacher would say, listen, Cliff's writing looks like it's done by a 2nd grader or a 3rd grader, but it feels like it's written by a high schooler when you actually like look past the fact that he spelled squirrel with 9 letters. And like that is so cool to me that I have a clear vision of what my life should be about. And I would encourage everybody to figure out, obviously, what is your life about? Is it about dancing? Is it about music? Is it about podcasts? Is it about investing in real estate? Is it about raising your kids, which is completely like
the highest calling you can have? Is it about crafting with wood? Is it about skateboarding? What is it about? And if it can help other people, that's even better. And often the place to find that is your own challenges, your own insecurities, your own disease, your own disability. And every single person in the world has a disability or some disease or some problem. It can be that you're in a wheelchair or have glasses or have dyslexia or have ADHD or have anxiety or have, bowel syndrome or whatever. We all have bodies. Bodies are not perfect. Brains are not perfect. And by the way, perfect is not even the right word. All our brains are just different. And so if you can create tools, and by the way, this is the most human thing in the world, right? We talk about like our creator, we are creators, right? In God's image, like creating tools, that is being human and creating in general, right? Emerson has an essay called On Wealth where he talks about creating value. And he talks about Thomas Savery, who's the person who invented the steam engine. And all the pieces for the steam engine were like scrap metal in his garage. And then he applied his thought to matter, rearranged atom in a certain way, and then created something that is greater than the sum of its parts. And now it can like pump water out of wells. It can create electricity. It can run steam engines, and you multiply it times 100 times 1,000 times 1,000,000 times 1,000,000,000. And the world is fundamentally different. Like there's light in this room, and there's water, and there's electricity, and all these things. And it's just one person inventing something, and then people built on top of it. And now you get to do that with software, which is like so much easier. So, I can be successful to the degree that I am when I'm in my 20s. Like I don't need to wait. Like there's no like lead time of like building a factory or waiting for like ore to get matured out of like some mine. I can just write software. And I'm not even that good of an engineer. I just am dangerous enough. And by the way, like I misspell everything. I didn't learn how to code until I was like 21. And I just locked myself in my room for 8 hours a day for like 30 days in a row until I got good enough. And then I would like spend all of winter break learning how to code. And I did this for like 3 winter breaks in a row, and I got good enough. And I did 32 hackathons to learn how to code. And I decided that learning how to code was key to being the person that I wanted to be. And then I was just unwilling to stop until I achieved it. In the same way that I decided that reading was required to be the person that I wanted to be. So I was unwilling to stop until I achieved it. And you know what? I still wasn't good enough at reading. So I had to get into audiobooks. And there's no audiobooks for everything. So I had to build Speechify. And then Speechify wasn't good enough. So I had to recruit other people to help me make it better. And then at a certain point, you go, okay, I might as well build it for other people too. Like, let's go. Freshman year of high school was like 5'3". Sophomore year I was 5'4". Junior year I was like 5'5". Like I was very, very short. I only grew when I was a freshman in college, and I was also very skinny. Like I have a driver's license where I was 110 pounds, and I was like, okay, well, this is not the cliff that like I envisioned myself to be. So like now I'm like 180 pounds, and like I can bench press 260 pounds, and like I was like, cool, I'm gonna learn how to work out, and then like mathed it out, figured out how to eat, figured out how to lift. Like cool, now I'm the person that I want to be. And so that's the other thing that is like very helpful, and I think I am quite good at, is like setting very clear goals for who I want. Like I'm very good at dreaming. Like I'll dream for who I want to be. I'll write it out. I'll figure out exactly what the steps are to become that person. If I was wrong, I'll adjust them over time, and then I'll execute against them. And then boom, 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 boom. I'll achieve those outcomes. And I'll do it for me. I'll do it for my friends. I'll do it for my family. I'll do it for my parents. Like I'll figure out what are the things that we need in order to achieve it. And I'm relentless. I will not stop until I achieve the outcome that I wanted to get. And so the first thing that you need to do if you want to basically go down a similar path is first dream the dream. Who do you want to be? And so I have this thing on my computer and my phone. Both of them lock at 1 a.m. Like I can't use them anymore. And so between 1 a.m. and like 2 a.m. yesterday, I like, couldn't fall asleep. Actually, maybe it was 3 a.m. But the amount of yawning today. All I did was write out in a notepad things I wanted for my life. And I happen to be standing in a friend's house right now who has like an incredible company, far more advanced than Speechify is. And because I've been traveling recently, I've been staying with a lot of people like this. And I'm exposed to people who also dream really, really big. And I'm like, okay, well, what are the things that I want next? Like I'm going to turn 30 in a year. What now? What do I want for my family? What do I want for my home? What do I want for my partnership? What do I want for my goals around fitness? And I always come up with new systems. So I came up with this heuristic. Malthus is an amazing philosopher who is the father of utilitarianism. And I think that it's difficult to measure happiness, but you can measure relative happiness. So what I started to do is writing all the things in life that give me happiness. And I'm trying right now to quantify, how many units of utility. So how much happiness do I get from a cookie compared to my 6-pack? Okay, cool. So how many cookies should I eat, and what's the diminishing marginal returns? Like you can build these models, especially if you have Excel or Google Sheets. And I just do this all the time from every single different direction. Like I have at least 50 sheets on my Google Drive that are all me trying to figure out how to optimize happiness in life. both for myself and my loved ones and my family and the world and Speechify users, etc. And I look at it from every single angle, every single model, and I talk about it to people all the time. And when I figure out what I need to do, then it becomes easy. I just go and do
it. I love it. Thanks for spending so much time today.
Yeah, of course. I really enjoyed it.
Great. Well, everybody should obviously be going and getting Speechify if you agree with me. And thanks for making such a great product.
My absolute pleasure. Yeah, check it out in the App Store. Best place to go is speechify.com, and then go through the onboarding and then use the product, and it'll change your life. And try it on Kindle too.
Love it. Bye, everyone.